Alright guys, so after making the Tool is Overrated video, I felt like it might be fair to do a better overrated review justice by tackling my favorite band. So with Tool, I really wasn't that interested. So Periphery is my favorite band and probably will be for a while, just because of what it meant to me as a musician and my musical development. So I just wanted to kind of talk about some ways that Periphery is overrated, which is tough because I'm a huge fan and it's hard to downplay that, but Periphery is overrated. So for those of you who may not know who Periphery is, a cursory Google or YouTube search will pull up some of their material. They're known primarily as a progressive metal band, I guess would be a fair definition. I've been a Periphery fan for a long time, and by a long time I mean before P1. I'm not an original OG. I wasn't following Misha when he was posting under Bold on SoundClick and putting out demos, but I was a big fan of their original drummer, Travis Orban, because he was sponsored by Truth Drums. So in about 2009, they featured some of his YouTube videos, Truth Drums did, on his website. I was a huge fan of Travis Orban. I watched these videos and it was this band Periphery, so I started checking out their material. P1 came out, they put out the singles from that, which I thought was cool, but they didn't necessarily resonate with me personally that well, even though they're great songs. I wasn't as into the band until Periphery 2 came out, and when Periphery 2 came out, I was all about it, all about the sound, and that album was hugely influential for a lot of younger guitar players, myself included. This is one of the reasons why Periphery is overrated, is because it was so cool guitar-wise that there are legions of Djent kids, or former Djent kids. It used to be a total thing on Instagram and YouTube. It'd be the guy, he's got his 6 or 7 string plugged into the Axiflex, playing crazy shreddy riffs and drop C or drop G sharp if it was a 7 string, or 8 string sometimes. Well, outside the guitar community, this really didn't exist. There was no overwhelming fandom for the band Periphery. And I think that's important to realize. If you're a fan like me, it's a little hard to swallow that your band is really not that big of a deal in the greater scope of music. And I think that's the first way they're overrated. Their fans, while really hardcore, and it's awesome to be a fan of a band, you can lose some perspective on just what that band means in the greater scope of music and what that means to the greater world at large. For me, showing my folks and my sisters and my peers this music, they're like, ugh, screaming. I mean, the music's kind of cool, but I don't know about all these screamo vocals. They really aren't that big of a band, and while they have had some success, I think there's been hundreds of imitators, and in terms of success as metal bands, while they have grown in popularity and done quite well, they really aren't that big. So while they are successful and they've done big tours and they've made money, the other downside, I think, to Periphery and the way they could be considered overrated is the legions of copy bands. So as exciting as P2 was and as kind of groundbreaking and awesome as the production was, it immediately started spawning clones. But if everyone starts doing the same thing, everything starts to sound the same and it's not as interesting anymore. Every time a piece of signature gear would come out, I'd watch the demos, I'd try and buy it. I was all about this band and what they were doing, especially gear-wise, as a guitar player. While they're great songwriters, I'm trying to draw some objective conclusions, which is difficult because it's my favorite band, but I can see where someone might get turned off, even though they have really nice, occasionally complex vocal lines. They really aren't writing that catchy song that sticks in your head so much. It's kind of more of a musical journey and a little cinematic at times, or they just went the heavy route. I think with P4, Hail Stan, there's plenty of songs on there that are just slams. You're just slamming through the whole song. It's just like pedal to the metal, double bass, and detuned and even their breakdowns really aren't that breakdowny. But I think that's one of the things that's difficult to see if you're a really big fan, is just, number one, I wouldn't copy them as much. They've been around for 10 years. They do it better than anyone. Just as much as you're a fan, everyone else is. But then again, I would say, I think another reason they're overrated is they are kind of on the decline. While they may have charted really well with this last album, and I'm looking forward to what they put out, the opinion of the band seems to be they are getting away from making as many records. Misha went on to say, and he wrote a really good kind of lengthy article talking about the financials of being in a metal band. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily be copying a band that's on their way out. The band has aged, and like I said, maybe they'll do some more good material. But I think the popularity of that sound and of their style is kind of waning now, which is hard for me to swallow. Like I said, this is a tough one. I'm obsessed with everything they've done, and I can't even help being a fanboy sometimes, right? Yeah, those are kind of the main reasons. The sound has become generic now. It's a genre that is not wildly popular in the mainstream, so maybe in the guitar community they're pretty overrated. They haven't quite mastered the ability to write hooky songs, and I don't think they have any interest in it. They are only really interested in doing what they do, which is making great progressive metal, which is cool. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, those are just some of the reasons. Honestly, this video is tough for me to make. I'm a huge fanboy, but I figured I'd at least take a shot at it since I took some pretty aggressive shots at the Tool fans and they did not like it at all. So please like, subscribe, and share this video if you found it interesting. And if not, I'll catch you on the next one with some cool reviews or something. Thank you.